Good afternoon, everyone. It is a couple minutes past 1, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Councilmember Dustin Hillis, Chair of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. Thank you for joining us. Introduce my colleagues. Been joined by my right by Councilmember Andrea Boone. To my left, immediately, our Vice Chair, Councilmember Byron Amos, followed by Councilmember Mary Norwood, and we also have our special guest today, President Doug Shipman. So us four, outside of the president, do constitute a quorum. So we will go ahead and get started. I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Amos. Please prepare the vote.
Mr. Chair, who's the seconder?
Vice Chair Amos.
Thank you. The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. I will now make a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting. Is there a second? Second by Vice Chair Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 0 nays. Those amendments are approved. Moving on to our public comment. First up is Henri Jordan.
Give now to the Spirit of God, everyone is here. Nevertheless, the foundation of God standeth sure, having this seal, the Lord knoweth them that are his. And let everyone that nameth the name of Christ depart from iniquity. 2 Timothy 2nd chapter, 19th verse. The foundation of God standeth sure refers to the permanency of the church, which is built on the foundation of the apostles. When Jesus said, James is against his word, I said that the word can be built up in him because of his holiness church affiliation. Christ knew him better than I did, and no better than we do. The Lord preserveth the simple. I was brought low, he helped me. Psalms 116, chapter 6 verse. The psalm is composed of 3 distinct parts. First, a declaration of praise, verses 1 and 2. Next, the psalmist recalls his troubles and how the Lord delivered him from them, verses 3 through 10. They profess that they know God, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient, and to every good work reprobate. Titus 1st chapter, 16th verse. A form of godliness is mere religion without power or spiritual life. Jesus lift me up where I have fallen and help you to know the power of Christ. The word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. Psalms 119, chapter 11, verse. Testimonies of God emphasizes the content of the word as that which God has testified himself and his will. Let Jesus rule my life and yours, but you must desire it. Because you can buy policemen and can buy judges, that's when you're still murderers. Because you helping evil instead of fighting against evil. But Christ has the last say so. When you seek to kill, you shall be killed. When you seek to kill one another, kill anybody lesser than you, flesh uplifts itself. But Christ can lift us higher than flesh can be lifted. Thank you, and obey Jesus.
Next up, we have Courtney Jones. So Courtney Jones, who signed up for public comment. All right, we'll move on to Mr. DeJuan Robinson.
Mr. Chairperson, I noticed that you cut off the donating of time. I wanted to know, do the board have to approve of that? Or that's a decision you just made on your own?
That's up to the chairperson of the committee and multiple committees here at City Council.
So, Mr. Shipman, I'm not understanding how you approve of that. I mean, we're infringing on the First Amendment when you deny somebody to donate somebody else some time to speak for them. I don't know why we're doing this. If we're going to be transparent and ethical, allow people to donate their time, man. Cutting off people's time. What does it hurt you for somebody to stand up here? We got 4 people signed up. We're not even meeting the hour threshold mark. And you guys are cutting time out for people to donate. That's not fair, man, and we got to get past that if we truly want transparency. If you can't sit up here and take people talking to you, you know what I'm saying, about your job, what you should be doing, run for something else. Leave city council and go do something else. I mean, go to the Atlanta Zoo where nobody's going to talk bad about you. Go over there. But if you're going to be over here, allow people the time to come up here and scrutinize the position that you ran for, you asked for a vote for. And I'm disappointed that if this board agreed with that, Ms. Boone, Mr. Amos, Ms. Norwood, Antonio Lewis, I'm very disappointed that you guys agreed to that. Now let's get to the matter at hand. I don't come down here to speak about my personal life at all, but I have a sister that's fighting stage 2 breast cancer. This past Friday, we had SWAT came to my sister's house when we just left Grady for chemotherapy treatment, looking for my nephew who'd been locked up 6 months already. Already took his time. SWAT came, drug my sister out the house, drug everybody out the house, saying they looking for him. Man, we can't have that. I don't give a damn if it's my sister or anybody's sister, mother, aunt. You have a system you can check to see if this young man is locked up. You bypass that system, come in there and drag everybody out the house. My sister just got home at 3:48. I just dropped her off at 3:48 p.m. They come drag her out at 5:05. In your district, Mr. Dustin Hillis, I know you don't give a damn, but my sister live in your district. They drug her out the house after she was home maybe an hour, drug my nieces and my other little nephews out the house looking for my nephew. Now, if he was home and he was in the wrong, I have no problem with that. I'm saying abide by the law because I'm for the community, the police, and all of that. But at this point, when SWAT come without doing their homework and don't even offer an apology, now I thought there would be a higher law enforcement in here today, but we got to do something about this today. Mr. Shipman, we got to do something about this today. You sitting there, Ms. Norwood, we got to do something about this. We got to get SWAT on this line today. We got to get in touch with them because they need to go to my sister's house and issue an official apology. That's how people get killed and shot by mistakes, and then there would have been a cover-up with, I'm saying, when they should have done their job and looked in the system and seen my nephew been locked up for 6 months. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment. We will now move on to our 3 presentations we have today. Yeah, Councilmember Boone has a question.
Yes, sir. Will you give us your sister's address? Could you give it to staff on the side so that we can do some research on that issue with our chief? Ms. Matrisa McMichael, please. Thank you.
Our first up presentations, we have our Municipal Court of Atlanta quarterly update, Chief Judge Christopher Portis.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hillis, members of the committee. Chris Portis on behalf of the Municipal Court of Atlanta this afternoon to present our second quarterly presentation. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Moving into the presentation, the first slide, some general operations information about the number of individuals who have entered the courthouse from the public since the beginning of this calendar year. So far this calendar year, we've had just short of 140,000 visitors, averaging at about 35,000 per month. We continue to keep track of this metric so that we can best allocate space and move individuals in and out the courthouse every day. Just for general information, the daily operating hours for the Municipal Court of Atlanta are 6 days a week. On Sunday, the court is open before and just after the in custody calendar, Monday through Friday, 7:15, the doors open to the public and close again at 4:30. And the court is open on all official holidays as well. As long as we are running a jail calendar, the doors will open at least for a period of time to the public to be able to enter and at the very least observe. Looking forward to the traffic caseload since the start of January of this year, where you can see that we've had just about 25,000 cases filed, and year-to-date total just over 26,000 closed. This is a metric that we do keep close eye on. Our goal is to close more cases than are filed. Obviously, included in the number of closed are some of the FTA cases that we calendar to get heard as well. But to keep from having any dormant cases of significant portions, we aim, especially with the traffic cases, to close on average more than are actually filed. Same type of analysis looking at the criminal case count for 2023 filed versus closed. So far, just over 2,000 criminal cases have been filed, just short of 1,500 have been closed. The criminal cases do pose somewhat of a different type of case lifespan. These cases often require different resets for people who are either on probation or those who have failed to appear. This case count does also include a significant number of individuals who were initially arrested for the offense and are working their way through the process. Same type of metrics and analysis for the number of housing cases in specific that have been filed in 2023. As of year to date, 981 have been filed, 1,000 have been closed. And this is similar to the traffic metric. We try to make sure that we're keeping an eye on aging cases, especially those that are taking significant amount of time to get into compliance. Our goal with these cases, too, is to make sure that we're closing more than are being filed to keep from a significant agent population of cases. Taking a look at the calendar year 2022 over 2023, just to get an idea of what that looks like from case filings. For the first 3 months of 2023, higher than the total number of filings for the previous year, year over year. And then when we got to April, we did see in 2022 an unseasonal amount of tickets that were filed in April and May. Right now, based on the trend that we're seeing for 2023, if it continues, we're in the neighborhood of about projecting 150 to 160,000 filings, which will start to put us back on track with pre-pandemic levels of case filings. Looking at the FTA rate for 2023, so far we've had just short of 20,000 cases to go into FTA status. One of the things that I mentioned the last time I was present, for the first 6 weeks of 2023 alone, we had calendared about 16,000 new cases. As we look at this particular graph, this is one that we use to project where things are headed with the FTA rate, because the FTA rate doesn't track case filings day for day, meaning that individuals who FTA today represent case filings that were made 45 to 60 days ago. So when we look at the case filing figures for 2023, and we continue to see the trend moving in a downward fashion in light of the fact that we'll have more filings than we did last year, we know that that's at least a positive direction. One of the things that we're doing is we're still running and enforcing the zero tolerance on failure to appear cases, where especially in the traffic cases, once the license goes into suspension, you have to resolve the case as a part of unsuspending the license. And this is similar to what I was just speaking of, looking at the number of cases filed versus the number of FTAs. In an ideal scenario, the number of cases filed and the FTA rate should move in a proportional direction. If we see it inversing and FTAs increasing beyond the filings, that is a significant development that we have to take into account and look at what's driving that behavior. Looking at what the FTA court system has done, since the start of the year, we've closed just short of 11,000 FTA cases alone since the start of this calendar year. Right now, in an effort to move these cases through and especially accommodate calendar positions for those who reappear in court to get a court date to resolve their FTA, I have assigned failure to appear calendars to all of the full-time judges. This is something that we will continue to run until we are in a better seasonal spot. Right now, the good news as we move further into the bottom of the spring and the summer, most of the folks that we're seeing who have an FTA and are needing a court date are 2023 cases. They're no longer seeing dramatic amounts of COVID area cases, which is a very positive development. And this is a similar analysis, just looking at year 2022 over 2023 to see where we were with the same period of time. As you can see, the number of FTAs also is trending in a positive direction year over year, with just about 2,000 fewer FTAs for the comparison calendar years. And looking at where we were with cases closed, the total number of FTAs closed year to date, 10,000, the total number of FTAs, 18,000. This is also a pretty good seasonal metric on being able to get those cases calendared, heard, and get them resolved in court. One of the things that has come up as recent concerns about bindovers for the traffic cases since the beginning of the year. This graphic represents the total number of cases filed versus the total number of cases bound over to the counties of DeKalb or Fulton County. Right now, the bind over rate for traffic cases is 7%, and a similar type of metric for the criminal cases for the calendar year beginning January through April, bind over rate for criminal matters of 4%. Year-to-date total on signed warrants January 3rd to the present is 6,608. The next slide here represents what those totals look like month over month for this calendar year and track very closely to the FTA numbers. And the question might ask, well, why don't the number of warrants signed match the FTA numbers? Well, because for the traffic cases in particular, there is a 30-day window built into state law that allows an individual to come in and waive arraignment and resolve that FTA. So it won't track the FTAs one-to-one, but so far this year we have just short of 7,000 warrants that have been signed. And good news as we look forward to the future, as of April 26th, the Atlanta Police Department has partnered with us to allow us to again resume placement of warrants upon GCIC using the police department's ORI, which means that the court warrant team will be able to assist by doing that last leg of the process to get an active warrant. Right now, for the next 6 months, we'll have capacity to put up about 300 warrants. So what we're starting to do now with those 6,000 warrants that were on the previous screen, we're going through each one of those to pick out the most hot button issues, especially the cases where a defendant was arrested, so that we can try to start getting those warrants up on GCIC and those individuals in the breast of the court. And that concludes the presentation. As always, I'm happy to take any questions, address any concerns the committee may have.
Thank you, Chief Judge Portis. Before we get started with the questions, please indicate on your screen if you have a question, but we have been joined by Councilmember Antonio Lewis, and we were briefly joined by Councilmember Waits, and I expect she will return. First up is Councilmember Lewis. You have the floor.
And Chief Justice Portis, I want to say I appreciate you for the work you put in. I know we met last year after me getting calls about the court system and hearing some false information about the court system, about how hard you were actually working and how hard our judges are working. My question to you, we're in budget season as well. And I know that the city of Atlanta makes up the highest amount of cases in Fulton County. I know we have our own cases here We've been the office that our job is to get in front of some of this criminal behavior stuff. I know we passed a paper to delete all of the criminal background for city ordinances 3 weeks ago. It just passed in the city of Atlanta. How is that have you all received that, first of all? It's been signed by the mayor, passed by the city of council. Have you received that, and have you started working to expunge backgrounds, anything 5 years or older, for city codes? That's what our office passed.
That is the first that I have heard of it. But I will say in general, there shouldn't be an issue with criminal histories and city ordinance violations. Pre-2013, the vast majority of them were considered non-fingerprintable offenses. So they should not, for the most part, be on the criminal histories. As far as an initiative to work on clearing them if they are, I think that that's something that everybody on my side would be supportive of. I think it's just a matter of the appropriate way to go about doing it so that it actually results in the end goal as opposed to just a process that, is paperwork.
And that shows some of the disconnect, right? Because I know I was elected and I heard all this bad information about the court, and I've been over there a few times. That ain't true. I'm seeing y'all work. I'm seeing folks at work. I'm seeing how hard our judges work. But there's a disconnect because my office passed paper legislation in the city of Atlanta to expunge everything 5 years or older for city ordinances. And for you to not know about it is part of the disconnect, and some we fixing with this mayor and under this city council. We have to figure out a way to get that to you because it's folks that are nervous to even apply for jobs. I know we say that it don't even, I love what you just said, it does not show up on backgrounds. And so, but some folks, they don't even apply to be our sanitation worker, our trash man in the city because they're afraid of a potential show up on that background check. So we need to connect on that more. I think my second question to you is looking at Fulton County and the city of Atlanta having the most cases there. We had a young man, a city of Atlanta resident, die and be eaten alive by parasites in the Fulton County jail. And so I'm trying to find a way. We got folks that are in there for nonviolent offenses. And I know that we have different people have different ways to let people out. We done changed the rules in Atlanta so much so that you can get a signature bond for most offenses. But it's a man that was not checked on for over 20 days, eaten alive by parasites in that jail. So I'm trying to find a way to clear that jail out. To help you, it's in budget season. Do you think that the city of Atlanta should put more money towards our cases? I'm talking about our citizens that have been tax-paying citizens in our city that are in Fulton County or because we're sharing our jail with Fulton County. We're moving like it's a group project in a whole lot of ways. And so I need to hear from you. I heard from people in this building, people outside this building about a terrible job that our judges was doing. I went over there. Y'all at work. Y'all do a job I couldn't do. I couldn't sit there for 8 hours a day and listen to people talk to me. I just couldn't do it. I sat there listening and watched it happen. I couldn't do it. I couldn't because I am too active to sit there and actually in one place and listen to folks. So I've seen y'all at work. How do you think this city can help you? Because we heard these bad rumors. You came in here, you had to stand up, and I appreciate you for standing up for yourself against them because we actually tell politicians don't speak back when people say something bad to you. But as a judge, you had to come in here and stand up, and I appreciate you for doing that. I'm sorry that you had to do that, by the way. Sorry that you had to do that. But how can we as a city help you clear out these cases? I want to see some folk, nonviolent offenders need to be at home. Anybody locked up for just weed in Atlanta, man, shouldn't be locked up. Anybody locked up for jaywalking. Some of these cases, some of them are bigger than that. They're bigger than that, but they're going over to Fulton County. So how do you think we can clear out and get folks out of this jail where people dying, they getting stabbed up, where mothers calling me? Because my friends getting stabbed up in the jail. Their sons are getting stabbed up. So how can we clear this out? And I appreciate y'all for working hard. I want to make sure I keep saying that. because I called y'all down here when we heard y'all weren't working hard. So I appreciate y'all for working hard.
First and foremost, I appreciate your words, and I was here because it comes with the job, it comes with the territory. I think that that's one of the unique features of our democracy, the ability to not only criticize the government, but criticize those who work in the government. So I think that to hold the position comes with it the responsibility, whether you like it or not, to make sure that you are professional and that you are addressing issues as they come. As for the issues that may be facing the county and its system, I can't tell you by way of resources to our court that would alleviate that. What I can say is I think that there are enormous opportunities to look at the offenses that are on the books for the city of Atlanta, and while they are ordinance level violations, working with all of the apparatus of the city system to try to direct more individuals through your system. I think that one of the missed opportunities is you have ability to set the policy for your system and to make sure that people are treated the way that you want to see them treated. So the issue then just becomes making sure those bodies are routed through your system so that you can have that opportunity before they are graduated up to the county. I think that that's probably a multi-departmental discussion, but it may be a worthy discussion to see how you can stem the tide of one individuals going to the county and utilize the mechanics of the city's governmental system, but at the same time, then working to make sure that when an individual does interact with the system, all of the really positive things that you want to see happen, record restrictions, expungements, those type of things. And I'm happy to further explore that or come to any meeting that you would have.
I love what you just said. I even want to go further, right? Because I understand the power that I have, power that's vested in me in this seat. And part of it means that I want to see weekend jail come back as an option to some of the things that's coming back. That way we can get more people employed. Like I know people that are losing jobs because weekend jail isn't an option for a simple ordinance that they failed. So I can't wait to work with you on ways to alleviate crime in different ways. When a person comes into our system, let's make them get a job. Probation, to me, the probation officer's job is to make this man get a job, make this man or woman get a job as well, so they can get out of the criminal system and become a tax-paying system. I think that all three bodies have to work together. All three levers have to work together. And so I can't wait to work with you and Councilmember Boone on finding a way, the moment they hit your system, if they're in District 12, I know I can't speak for all council members, they hit your system, I want to get them a job before they come back home. Or, because we got some jobs right now in the city of Atlanta that pay every single day to clean up the city. And so we're seeing this happen, but we can't, they only hire people just as impacted. And so that's the moment they get out of jail and they get that signature bond, because we're trying to be helpful to people, they need to be applying for a job, and a probation officer need to be on them on that job stuff. So I appreciate you for coming in again, and I appreciate you coming on good times and bad times and standing up how you're supposed to. Thank you.
Councilmember Norwood.
Yeah, I have never seen such reckless driving as I've seen in the past year, and specifically the past several months. Between the paper tags, the out-of-state tags, the tags that are blacked out, that literally there's a film that's put over them so you can't read those, and then on a lesser scale, the blackened windows. But the three instances of tags, so my question to you is, and request, is to get with the police department and the Georgia State Patrol and every other department, whether it's the Georgia State Police or whoever it is, because it is unbelievably reckless out there. And so the wrecks are dramatic and extensive and so much more volatile and horrific than they've ever been, because it's just totally out of control. And when you see, and I drive the streets every day, and I drive the interstates every day, and when you see who's doing it, it is predominantly out-of-state tags, paper tags, and blacked over tags. I also understand, and I would like for y'all to run this to ground with the police department, that there's a scam going on with the paper tags where people get a car but quit paying the payment, so they never get a real tag. So I would like to see our traffic court, which is what you are for the majority of your cases, really get involved in how we can make our city more lawful, because what is happening is beyond anything I've ever seen. People going in front, literally going from a middle lane over in front of the car that's to make the left-hand turn because they wanted to. People turning around in the middle of the street, backing up into oncoming traffic because they couldn't make the swing to do a complete U-turn. It is frightening, and it's just not Atlanta. It's just not Atlanta. We need to get a handle on that. And I would like for y'all to look to the state to see if we can't charge people for a decal like we charge our own citizens to get a tag every year. Let's get an out-of-state tag or a paper tag. Let's get some money that says if you're going to drive in our city or our region, great, but you got to pay something. We got to know who you are, because right now we have no way of knowing who you are, and we are seeing the out of control, irresponsible behavior. So I will also be saying this to the police department as well. But I want, as municipal court over traffic offenses, let's see what we're charging people with and where is the missing link to really be getting our traffic laws enforced and our traffic driving patterns under control. So
I'm glad to hear you say it, and on my end, by the time you hear from me again, I will detail a zero tolerance plan on the back end of some of those cases. The number of cases that we see now where a driver was going over 100 miles an hour has increased fourfold. So it's something that we're seeing as well, and that we are taking note of as well, that the traditional dynamics of case resolution for some of the behavior, even on the roads, is not having the impact that it once did. As far as me personally, for individuals going at high rates of speed, I am just as fine with someone serving 2 days in an effort to get them to understand that it is very serious conduct and it could very well mean the loss of life. So by the time you hear from me again, we will have a plan that we have unveiled to deal with on a zero tolerance point some of the most egregious of conduct.
And the other thing is, let's use drones. There is just no reason that there, and if we do not have the personnel to be out there to stop some of this reckless behavior, let's, we know that the satellite can figure out where people are. So why aren't we using the technology to not have personal intervention, but to be able to track a car like our police do with the helicopter? But I'm talking about just out of behavior all the time. Let's figure out how we can track them, be able to prove it, and to be able to hold them accountable. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Amos.
Yes, sir. Chief Judge Portis, and I see your deputy has come in. I want to start off with a word of thank you, and that's for the continuing education that you're doing. I actually had a chance, I think it was last year, to sit in your courtroom, and I think this year with Chief Ward. In some cases, I think you're being too lenient, and that goes back to our housing code cases. But we talked about that, and that's where the continuing education comes in, because originally we looked at code enforcement, solve those problems, then we looked at the solicitor's office, then we looked at the actual judges on the bench, but we never stopped to realize that a lot of the things you do is dictated by state law. So that's that part of a continuing education. So now my colleagues and I understand we need to talk to our colleagues across the street to give us, or you guys, the power to do something more and different when it comes to code enforcement. So I just want to say thank you for that, but definitely let's stay in this conversation on how we make our code enforcement system better, including everyone at the table, because it doesn't stop and start with our code enforcement officer. It actually goes across the street to our state legislator as well, and I just appreciate you for being in the game on that. Thank you. And also, my question was actually answered by slide 17. I know that was a big issue coming out of last year and this year, but I'm glad to see this agreement. Hopefully we can get these warrants put in and actually take the people off the street that need to be off of. So thank you.
To that point, I will say that I make it my job to follow exactly what the law says as a point of philosophy. The Housing Code of 1987 as a primary purpose does state in its terms compliance. So when we are handling the cases in the courtroom, the solicitor team, the prosecutor team is heavily vested in working with not only the code enforcement officer who issued the citation, but also the individuals for compliance. There are often things that are outside of our control. Permitting is one. Obviously, if you're already in violation, to bring it in compliance, you're going to have to bring it in compliance lawfully under what the city requires. Sometimes that takes a permit. For case resets, there was a time where a 60-day reset was an extraordinary reset, but it was for permitting. As I stand here today, I do have cases that are open from 2022 where folks are working their way through the permitting process still. That has a lot of different reasons outside of anything that's our control or your control, but just know that the permitting process goes hand in hand with compliance in the case being reset. In general, we're always happy to have people participate in the process in the courtroom because I don't know any more about a case than what gets presented to me, and I should not. I shouldn't do independent research. But I think that if there's any silver lining, when we do look at the numbers, especially with the housing cases, we are closing more than are being filed. So we are working through them. I just want you to be assured that if a case gets reset, there is a rhyme and reason to the reset. Everybody is consenting to the reset. We've all looked at the case. It's not a blanket system where folks just get another court date just to kick the can down the road. And that is my commitment to you on that.
Councilmember Waits, I did acknowledge you would join us, but then you would hop back out, but you have rejoined us, and you have a question, so welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. So I'm just curious. I know there was some dialogue some time ago regarding apprehending vehicles that had liens on them or that were financed. I guess that was a concern in terms of getting state legislation to do that. So I'd love to coordinate and have a conversation between you and the law department and AEPD surrounding individuals. So when we impound the vehicles, it's my understanding that if there is a loan or something on the car that we have to give it back. So what is the process to ensure for those who are repeat violators, specific to Councilmember Norwood's point? I have also seen this uptick in reckless driving, the speed racing and so forth. But I am told that when the car is impounded, that the lender has the capacity to somehow secure the vehicle back if there's a loan on the car. And these are these high-end souped-up vehicles. And so my question later, I'd love to talk offline about how we put some policy in place to stop these vehicles from coming back onto the road.
Sounds good. I'll be available whenever you're ready.
Yes, sir.
Any questions from colleagues? Chief Judge Portis, just one or two questions. Thanks for all the statistics. Saw that so far this year, 38,000 cases, but 19,000, almost 50%, are FTA'd. First question related to that is, where does that land in larger municipal court systems as far as the FTA rate? And then two, if I go out and I get a ticket from police officer, code enforcement officer, building inspector, whatnot, state trooper, I know those cases come to municipal court as well, but when the court gets the ticket, what all steps does the court take to notify that person, remind them of the court date, notify them of the punishments if they don't show up to that court date?
Good question. First, one of the things that we talked about when we were going through the slides, the FTA number is not tracked, or it's tracked daily, but it's not one-to-one with the case filing. And what I mean by that is, today, 10,000 cases could be filed. In general, those are going to have court dates that come up about 60 days out. So it'll be 60 days before we start seeing the failure to appears for the cases that were filed on today. When we started the year, for the first 6 weeks of the year, for instance, we calendared just over 16,000 cases, and we also scheduled just short of about 8,000 failure to appear cases just in the first 6 weeks alone. So some of what you're seeing in the FTAs that you are looking at now are the fact that we had an extraordinary large number of cases that we were bringing into court at the top of the year. What we'll do is we'll keep an eye on where that goes once we get to December. The 50% number, especially for the traffic cases, is not all necessarily bad news, because we have a mechanism to do something about the license if that person does not come to court. Eventually, that license will go into suspended status, and then they will come to court. Is what we see from the behavior. As far as what individuals get, a couple of things have to happen when you especially get a traffic citation. The first one is you have a valid Georgia driver's license. Whether it's the Atlanta Police Department or the State Patrol, they're going to use the address on your license at that time when you are getting the citation. That is the information that we will use to send out all court notices. There is a responsibility on every license holder in the state under state law to keep your license current even beyond a period of time when you move. It is very easy to come to the court and update your license with us so that you get mail currently. I say all that to say that a lot of people do get mail at a bad address simply because they have not updated their license or they haven't come to update that information at the court. But it's literally something that can be done automated. You don't even have to talk to a person. You can do that on one of our kiosks without even standing in line. If you want to stand in line, you can turn in a piece of paper if that was easier for you to do it. But there is no other way we can make the update your address feature any easier. From what we're seeing, folks just don't believe that there will be consequences from the license suspension or missing the court date until the license is suspended. Obviously, when someone fails to appear in court, they're going to get a postcard, again, saying you failed to appear in court, and it will detail what the penalties are for failing to appear in court on that postcard. That's the same for traffic. That's the same for criminal cases, as well as the citation itself has some language on it about the penalty for failing to appear in court.
Thank you for that. And as far as you provided one slide about the agreement between APD and municipal court about, you all sign, so there's 19,000 FTAs, you all have signed 6,600, but then the next step is actually get those on GCIC. What was the last meeting or update to that agreement? Have we been able to get more capacity out of that agreement, or what is the status right now?
Right now, the capacity of that is at about 5% or no more than about 300 warrants for the APD team. That's entirely driven by their staffing levels, and they're working to get their team enlarged, but obviously hiring, recruiting, retention is a challenge at this point. I'm expecting that as soon as that capacity increases, as will the number of warrants that we can place active on GCIC, but we'll see where we are. We'll go through them, as I said, and try to identify folks. For instance, if you posted bond and didn't show up on a DUI, those type of things that just are needed to be in place to keep folks safe in general. We'll prioritize those cases first, try to make the best of the capacity that we do have until that capacity is enlarged.
That, and Councilmember Waits has another question.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you. Is it possible that we can have a work session surrounding the signature bond program? It seems to be problematic and in some ways a failure And so for those ones who have failed to appear or who've demonstrated that they're not really interested in the program, how can we stop the revolving door in terms of the manpower, the labor, and so forth? I'm certainly not interested in criminalizing poverty, but it just appears to me that it's not working.
Certainly look into that and see what kind of deliverables we would want to see. So I'll digest that and get back with you. Any other questions for Chief Judge Portis? All right, thank you, Chief Judge.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Lewis.
And I say it's a give and take scenario when it comes to the failure to appear, right? Because some folks have failure to appear for a jaywalking crime, which means now there are two charges, is jaywalking and failure to appear. And I don't know if we want that person in Fulton County Jail for 30 days not being seen about. So it's a give and a take with the failure to appear, and I think which is why I try to make sure we get rid of the stuff from 5 years ago, because some folks walking around right now with some failure to appears from 5 years ago that is making them feel insecure when applying for jobs, making them feel insecure when they go get their license, right? So we have people that have not renewed their license because of a failure to appear for a jaywalking crime. Or I have a senior in the gate. I have a senior who is looking for a place to live, and she keeps getting denied because of a nickel bag of weed that she got caught with in the early 90s. And so we know in Atlanta, a nickel bag of weed you ain't getting stopped for. We letting you go home. That's what we've put forth. But we got seniors who can't find places to live because of a nickel bag of weed. And so also that failure to appear. So she got two charges in life, a nickel bag of weed from Freaknik and failure to appear. She explained it to me just like that. And so I don't know how we help that person. So not criminalizing so it's a give and take scenario, which is why I want to make sure that the communication from council because council, we're the lawmaking body of the, I don't know if they know it, but we are experts at making policy. And so we put out policy expunge all the records from 5 years ago. I took pride in putting that out. Or we put out policy lock boxes. We need the folks there on the other side to listen to us on that as well, because I know we got car jacks, the thing to make it where you can't steal the Kias and the Altimas, but I asked for lock boxes before that. I can't wait to see that come, just like I can't wait to see us figure out a different way to help people out with these different smaller charges from 30 years ago there on their record.
Sounds good. Just so you know, and you can let anybody who approaches you with the concern, right now as we stand here today, the oldest active warrant that may be on GCIC for a municipal court violation at best is maybe a 2021 case. Be good then.
I feel even better about that paper, about that 5-year thing now, because now the publicity about that going out, because you already uncleared their records. So nobody has anything, no active warrants from 5 years ago. So the failure to appear that people are afraid of, they're not being looked for by the police, it sounds like, right? And so to get there, I can't wait till we clear these records so people can feel more confident and can walk around with their chests out. Because they don't know. I didn't know that, what you just said. I remember. It's just part of it. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Chief Judge Portis.
Thank you.
Next up, we will have Office of the Solicitor Quarterly Update. Raines Carter, City Solicitor. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, President Shipman, Chairman Hillis, and all members of the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. I'm Raines Carter, City Solicitor, and we are happy to be able to have our presentation before you today. Interestingly enough, part of what we will be talking about today is actually on your agenda for today. And I want to take a moment to urge you to please consider the passage of it. It is resolution number 23-R-3538, which deals with the case management system for the city solicitor's office. I want to take a moment to personally thank Chairman Hillis for sponsoring this case management system for us last year. However, we've run into a glitch. During the negotiations that were taking place with the city, it turns out that the company actually changed its name. So we have to have the proper name in the contract for the city, and Councilmember Hillis has sponsored that for us, and it's on your agenda today. What am I talking about when I keep talking about case management system? Well, it's this very first slide. As you know, we come before you and we have different presentations, but they're always lacking in terms of the specific metrics. That's what we want to get before you. We don't want to come before you and hand out spreadsheets and charts of things that we've done manually and internally, so that you can have the information that will enable you to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. This is about accountability. It also will allow us to reprioritize our resources as we come before you with our budget requests, and it's to promote community safety, and also, just as importantly, making sure that prosecutorial ethics and integrity are part of what we do. So what you will be seeing, I am very hopeful that by next presentation, you are going to have some specific performance metrics that you can look at, as opposed to me explaining the reasons why we need it. We're going to leverage technology to more efficiently handle our cases, properly allocate our resources, and to properly support the prosecution of cases. Traditional measurement examples that we get from prosecutor organizations have always been based on a couple of things. Did you win or did you lose? Well, that's old school. What prosecutors are doing now are looking at performance metrics beyond just the winning or the losing of a case in terms of whether it was successful or unsuccessful. We're now measuring how the community is impacted by the discretion that we use, not only in managing our caseloads, but also on specific cases. So what we have evolved into now are going beyond just the traditional performance measures. What you will be seeing going forward at this point is an ability for you to look at our organizational and staff capacity. Are we staffed properly? Do we have the proper allocation of resources in terms of time and resource prioritization? Something that I think is very interesting is timeliness of case processing. From the moment that case comes to our attention, how long are we taking to properly process that case? And what impact is it having not only on city resources, but what impact is it having on the citizens as they're waiting for some form of justice? So these are the things that you will be seeing in this case management system. What prosecutors are also doing now in terms of community outreach and engagement is they're coming up with specific measures as how effective are these programs, the educational components, things that involve having seminars and workshops with citizens related to things like expunging their records. And then you'll also have an opportunity to see in real time how are we doing this in terms of our ethics and our integrity. I want to take a moment to pause to let you know that I've had an opportunity to reach out to my colleagues. I've had discussion with the Fulton County Solicitor's Office, and they are very excited about this case management system, because what it's going to provide is an ability for us to communicate with each other electronically and to impact the cases as they flow from the municipal court to our county courts. I want to, again, thank you all for helping us to work on this. We're ready to go. I'm hoping that this will have a successful passage before full council if you would consider it today on your agenda. Also wanted to let you know I'm joined today by Deputy Solicitor Erica Smith, and we are available at the end of our presentation for questions that you may have as we move forward. We hear a lot about code enforcement, and we hear a lot about the various things that take place with compliance. We have a 1980 zoning code. We have a 1987 housing code. Well, it's 2023. So we want to be a part of your efforts to legislatively start updating our codes. I understand that there are already efforts underway in terms of looking at the zoning ordinances, because that's part of what we do. As you can see, we deal with zoning cases. Obviously, the APD code enforcement, license and permits. We have a couple of ongoing projects that are taking place, not only with license and permits, but also our city finance department. We're handling cases with Public Works, and we're going to go into more details about that, fire code violations. So I want you to understand that this is broad-based when we start talking about enforcing our codes. And you all are the policymakers. You all make these policies, and you update them for us, and we want them to be effective. So I am very happy to sit at the table as you look at doing these updates that make what we're supposed to do relevant to an Atlanta of 2023, not an Atlanta of 1980 or 1987. There are some specific collaborations that we have been working with. As you can see at the very top, we have a specific collaboration that's been ongoing with the Department of Revenue, and that is business license compliance. We are involved in a project that predates COVID, that goes back to 2019, which was the last year of full vigorous enforcement on this, and we're going on a periodic basis. And as you can see, monthly we are producing numbers in terms of not only the inspections that we're doing throughout the city, but also with the citations that are being issued. One of the wonderful things about this case management system is you'll be able to see the results. What happened with these citations? Were they timely prosecuted? What was the result of the citation? What was the penalty involved with this? So these are things that we have ongoing with the business license division, and a couple of specific projects that we have with APD related to some of the issues that are plaguing your communities relative to convenience stores and gaming machines and those types of things. So there'll be more specific information that you'll be able to see other than what's put on a spreadsheet, because it'll be in the case management system. We also are doing our specific code enforcement sweeps, is what we call them. And that's where we partner with our other city departments, DPW, APD, fire department, and we do enforcement sweeps looking for violations relative to business license, junk motor vehicles, scrap tires. We have started our phases in 2 corridors, and we intend to do this throughout major corridors throughout the city. With regard to the Martin Luther King corridor, we have reports from February, March, and April of this year. As you can see, we just got started with the Donald L. Hollowell corridor, but by no means think that that will be anywhere near the last. In fact, we are now doubling our efforts to do our code enforcement sweeps, because we've been able to partner with other departments, and we have the resources that have been provided by you to be more aggressive in doing these. Now, we don't announce these sweeps publicly, but you're certainly as members of our council, going to be informed when these sweeps will take place and what the particular aim will be, because we are having serious problems with certain corridors that are just filled with junk and debris, tires, those types of issues. We have a very specific collaboration that we're happy to work with the Department of Public Works. I want to take this opportunity to thank Commissioner Wiggins, because we have partnered with him, and through him, we have hired 2 full-time post-certified officers to help us focus on illegal dumping throughout our city. By post-certified, they have the same types of arrest powers as Atlanta police officers, and they will be working with the various projects that are put together with the mobile surveillance cameras that Commissioner Wiggins has talked to us about, and we will be going out throughout the city making sure that we properly enforce. So stay tuned, because we really are working hard to catch some of these people in the act, because we want to send a very strong message that Atlanta is not your dumping ground, that you don't decide to come into this city and dump and go back outside of the jurisdiction. So we're going to be looking for some strenuous enforcement, and again, thanks to Commissioner Wiggins for that. Now we go to our community outreach. Obviously, we want to express our appreciation to you as council members for providing us the resources, and you give us input into some of the things that we've been able to do. We've had a couple of very successful outreach senior citizen public safety events at St. Philip's Cathedral. We also had one at the William Walker Recreation Center in APD Zone 4. And for all council members, we're doing this citywide. So we're coming to your district, we're coming to your zone, so please be on the lookout for us. And we can't do this without you. We've done surveys, and we're getting some very positive feedback from our seniors in terms of how these things are beneficial to them. Of course, we continue something that we've started years ago, which is our Fight Against Blight in Action. We are available to your MPU units for community cleanups. We have people that love to get out and volunteer to help on the weekends, to help with neighborhood cleanups, and we continue to provide ourselves as a city resource, along with the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department. They also give strong support in that area to help our neighborhoods stay clean. With regard to the Mayor's Year of the Youth Initiative, we were very happy at the beginning of March to basically continue to be a part of the Young Litigators program. We have a young lady, Ms. Dominic, that we are particularly proud of. This is a young lady that is finishing high school that went up against a whole team of students, about 4 students at, from Midtown High, and she was victorious. And so she has been designated as our very first junior solicitor. So she's a part of the office now. I hope to continue to try to encourage her to seek a legal career and become a part of us upon finishing her education. In April, we were very happy to host a day in the life of a prosecutor. As I mentioned before, I don't want young people to meet me for the very first time when they're on the other side of the bench saying, I'm in trouble. And I want to give specific thanks to Deputy Smith and Deputy Taylor, 2 of the deputy solicitors that took the time to really work with these students. They were very excited. They had a lot of questions. And we also want to thank the judiciary, the judges that were a part of that process. We're continuing to do outreach in terms of young adult driver safety, even some of the things that are taking place with skating. You see what's going on with kids in these skateboards. So we want to make sure that we launch this throughout the city to have those opportunities to educate them regarding that. Another thing we're particularly proud of in terms of a Year of Youth initiative was to be able, as you know, we're into prom season and graduation season. We had some of the prosecutors in the court to get together with other organizations, and we collected and donated prom dresses for the young ladies in terms of them being able to attend their prom and be happy about it. We continue our food distribution events related to outreach, and we're just happy, as you can see, to have all these partners that work along with us. And with that, I conclude the presentation, and I am here available for questions, and also I have Deputy Smith for specific questions also.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Colleagues, if you have questions, please indicate it on screen. Councilmember Waits up there, but she is not present. Go to, and we also have been joined by Councilmember Bond. So Councilmember Bond, you're first, and President Shipman, then Councilmember Amos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Carter, for your always thorough presentation. I just wanted to thank you publicly for the efforts that your office has done in collaboration with the Post 1 at Large office. Every week, the Solicitor's Office, along with other city departments and agencies, supplies volunteers to the HelloFresh food distributions without fail. And for the community public safety sessions that have gone on for the last year and a half with your staff, Hala Carey, I really do appreciate being in partnership with you. And I know, Mr. Hillis, we've done it together, and so we want to make sure that all council members avail themselves of these presentations within your various council districts, because they are very well attended and they're very, very informative for our citizens. And so just want to compliment you on the work that you're doing outside of the courtroom, and I appreciate your effort in wanting to get close to the young people in Atlanta before they're formally called before you. I really appreciate that, and I think that it can make a big difference in their perspective of the criminal justice system and the courts. So just want to give you kudos here today.
Thank you.
President Shipman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. I just wanted to ask a few questions to learn a little bit more about this program with the Department of Public Works, which I'm very heartened to hear about. Dumping in our communities is an ongoing problem, so this is a very exciting program. Are the two sworn officers full-time just on this effort?
Yes, they're full-time with benefits. We were approached by Commissioner Wiggins, and he brought out to our attention the fact that we really need some enforcement behind the cameras. He also came to us because it turns out that many of the materials that are found are sometimes hazardous materials. Well, President Shipman, those are felonies. And we have an ongoing relationship with the district attorney's office. We meet with them monthly, or is it bi-monthly? We meet with them monthly so that we can use these investigators that are post-certified. One of us comes from police department in Alabama. The other one comes from the felony division of the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. And they have full post-certification, not only to write citations, but to make physical arrests. And my understanding from Commissioner Wiggins is that these mobile cameras, which I think were pretty much developed in-house, in fact, I suggested that he get a patent on them, that they can be deployed out to the districts and give us that ability to really have an impact on this, because somebody dumping and being able to drive away, we don't want that anymore. We want to get our hands on you. We got to put this to a stop.
That makes a lot of sense. And could you just comment on the build-out of the new command center? Could you just give a little more detail about what that is?
Yes, we were able to be a part of the grand opening of the command center, and we were very proud to see that it definitely is set up on the same basis as the APD command center and the command center that's used by the state. It is outfitted with constant monitoring and cameras by DPW officers. It also has an ability through the communication devices to do real-time deployment as we go out. There is even workspace over there that's been provided to our 2 post-certified officers. And we're very happy that this was able to officially launch. And what we want to be able to do is to make sure that we see some results. I know that he'll be included in his reports, but we actually have a little part that we want built out in our case management system once we get everything online, so that you all can have not only real-time information. As I said before, you should have access to it. You should be able to go in and take a look and see what we're doing. So the command center, to me, is the first phase of it. Once we get the case management system married into the command center, then we should be able to give you all real-time information about what's going on throughout the city.
Well, thank you. I just want to commend these efforts. I think this is great collaboration between your office and DPW and the district attorney. I look forward to the results, but I remember having a conversation, I believe in this committee maybe even a year ago, about dumping and the need to focus on it. So I'm very, very grateful for your efforts here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Amos.
Yes, sir. Once again, like everyone else, I'd like to start off with a word of thank you, especially on what you and your office was able to do along with Magnolia Park. I know there's a lot of things still in place. I just want to say thank you for that, working with the Housing Authority in my office. I don't know the exact address, but I know you do, the apartment complex on Boone and Chapel. Send them a note, tell them we coming next, because it's time to do something about that atrocity, and exactly what it is, an atrocity. So thank you on that. And then your slide here, we got all the AUC except for Morris Brown. So let's add Morris Brown on there. But that's pretty much it. And even we used to call them weekend warriors, where people was, I guess, voluntold to go out and help with. Is that still, or I don't know if they're sentenced to the program, or they just told to do community service, or how can we get more people volunteering to help us clean up our city?
Well, we'll work on it internally. I have 2 people that coordinated in the office, and we'll make sure that we get people in place to do those things that you need done. Just please reach out to us. Just reach out to us. Let us know.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Solicitor. First, I'd like to commend you all on the work that your team has done on the M.L. King Jr. Drive corridor, along the Collier Heights Plaza, Atkins Road, Delmar Lane, Baker's Ferry. The folks on Boulder Park are very, very pleased with what you and Solicitor Smith, Mr. Robert DeLay, Mr. Bruce DeLay has done in that area, keeping them abreast of the court hearings, letting them know that they can come down and speak with a judge regarding some of their very pressing issues in their neighborhood. So thank you for having that personal touch with our NPUs. Next, I would like to know, is there any way we can get that program going again that Mr. Greathouse used to have? Winston Greathouse had it so that the people would come to the court. If they had small issues, they would go out, work with someone, go out and clean up an area. That was a very effective program, and we have not seen that again yet. We would love to see some of that happen again. But again, for all you all do, just working with the communities across Peyton Road, and all of the areas in Southwest Atlanta. We really do appreciate the responsiveness that you all give us. Thank you.
Okay, I have some good news on that. Mr. Greathouse was gone for a while. He is back with us.
Well, I would love to meet with him
Okay, so-
immediately. I would love to meet with him. We needed
Yes,
him there.
he's back with the office.
That was a very effective, for those that don't remember that program, but a lot of great relationships came out of that program. A lot of young people were helped, men and women. So we like to see that come back to the city of Atlanta. They went out and cleaned. They did all types of things. They removed debris. They removed graffiti from the H.E. Homes near the Hamilton E. Holmes station. So we want to get that back going. I would love to meet with him soon.
We
And
will.
again, Deputy Smith, thank you for your responsiveness also.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lewis.
And thank you, Solicitor, for coming today. First, I wanted to ask you about the Senior Citizens Public Safety events. I want to say I appreciate you for the ones coming up in Zone 3 and Zone 6 and Zone 4. Myself, Councilmember Waits, we can't wait to see Zone 3 on this list. And I know I can speak for Councilmember, if she will allow me, speak for Councilmember Boone when I say we love the work we're doing for our seniors, and I can't wait to see how we can add you to the work that we're doing in our district for our seniors. And so Councilmember Waits and Councilmember Boone, I can't wait till we have us a picture like this in their next quarterly report because they've done 5 events in our district over this time period. So I can't wait to see your resources that you have for that, for our seniors in our district. The next question I was going to have on you is Pavilion Place, Maynard 3, owned by the same person. The person lives in California, making a whole lot of money off poor people in my district. Myself, I used to live in Pavilion Place, and so I understand the reason. I understand we need to, in my district, I like having 3-bedroom apartments for $1,000 a month. I love that. I needed it. Myself, my nephew, and my sister, we needed somewhere to live at a time period. I like that we have an abundance in my district. I like myself and my wife, we were able to find a 3-bedroom house to rent in our district for less than $1,400 per month. So we have affordable housing, workforce housing, and low-income housing in District 12, but we don't like the way people are treating us. Right. And so Pavilion Place in Maynard 3, we talk about it. They all over the newspaper. I've been doing every visit with code enforcement I can there. Councilmember Norwood gave me a tool last week I never knew about 2 weeks ago in this meeting in which she said that the state worked on some stuff that, man, I appreciate this dais up here because Councilmember Norwood helped push some legislation in the state with state partners that I probably wouldn't have been able to talk to as myself. But they would help us in this city so we wouldn't get any more forest coves.
Correct.
And so Pavilion, to me, does not need to become Thomasville, does not need to become Jonesboro South, does not need to become Jonesboro North, and Leela Valley, which means deleted. Does not need to become Forest Cove. Pavilion needs to be reinvested in while people still live there. Because we know that Forest Cove went away and we won't never see 3-bedroom apartments there for less than $1,000. That's where we are. I hope. That's not what it's looking like. It's coming back. And so at Pavilion Place in Maynard 3 in District 12, we need to use those tools that she talked about in which the city can come in and force folks to upgrade it to code, or we forcibly get in there. How can you help me do that? I just gave you the 2 apartments, right. And to me, this is me using my microphone to ask for help. I don't know what to do more. Those 2 spaces, how can I use the tool that Councilmember Norwood told me about 2 weeks ago for Pavilion Place in Maynard 3, which has the same owner, which has been in our newspaper, on our news, which is going through every code enforcement violation in the world. How can you help me to help folks live how I used to live when I lived there when I was in college every single summer?
Well, I want to give you an answer.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, this was the blight the definition of blight being a legitimate use of eminent domain. So that was
That's what
what
I'm
was,
talking
that was
about.
what was changed.
Eminent domain
So
on
if
District 12.
If we could say to this particular owner, and I don't have any of the specifics, this is a new tool the city of Atlanta has under the state law. And so we anticipate your complying with having the blight remediated, or otherwise we may be forced to, or may take the opportunity to enforce our new definition of blight, which is authorized under state code, and proceed with eminent domain against your properties.
And I'm talking about the big properties. I'm not talking about if Mr. Raines owns a property in District 12 and someone complained about you. I'm talking about Pavilion Place, very specific, right? Pavilion Place is my Forest Cove. Only difference is I don't want it to go away. I want Pavilion Place to get the resources that it needs to still maintain as a 3-bedroom place for under $1,000 for people can live in and raise their families in. But I need no more rats and roaches. People shouldn't wake up with roaches eating on them, right? Like it used to be. When I used to live there, we didn't have those issues. It was actually known as the new spot on Cleveland Avenue in my lifetime, as one of the youngest council members we have. So I've seen it functioning the right way. And so I need your help for those 2 spaces. Same owner, young man, lives in California, making a whole lot of money off us, off despair in our district. And so I need your help to force this man to care about us. And so that's what I need you for. Thank you, Councilmember Norwood, for pushing this along party lines in the State House. Without you on this city council, without you speaking for the city of Atlanta, this don't happen in our state. So I appreciate you for bringing this eminent domain for these big, large apartment complexes with over 500 to 1,000 people living in them, treating us like we don't deserve to live there. Thank you, Councilmember Norwood, and I need your help. I look forward to you helping me on that. I look forward to seeing a picture with me and you in Pavilion Place, knocking on doors so we can see how people are living. Thank you again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I do want to let you know, and Councilmember Norwood know. Last time we were here, she asked me to get with the law department. I did it. I actually got with the city attorney. What I would like to do is we're going to set up a meeting with you and other interested so that we can talk specifics. We're putting a strategy and a protocol in place that we want to talk to you all about, but we also want from you the specifics in terms of the properties. Mr. Lewis, you already gave me one today. So I know
That's Pavilion and Maynard 3. They own Pavilion Place,
Same place.
and Maynard 3, 2 different places. They are on south side of District 12, on north side of District 12. And I would like to also request that Councilmember Norwood help me with this. I know how much of a fighter Councilmember Norwood has been. This is a way I can learn and work with you and Councilmember Boone on. I would like to ask both of y'all to help me in making sure that Atlantans are taken care of in Pavilion Place and Maynard 3. I need Councilmember Norwood and Councilmember Boone to enforce state laws. That way we need our state partners, whether they're Republican or Democratic. We need them in Pavilion Place, in Maynard 3, to show folks we care about them in Atlanta as a true group project. And so I would implore, if I can get both of y'all and our solicitor to come over to Pavilion Place in Maynard 3. Sure. Give me 1 hour of y'all time so y'all can see how folks are being taken advantage of on the south side of our city.
Absolutely. I'm on board. Thank you.
Councilmember Waits.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation today. I'm curious as to what we can do. I know we had a lot of conversations surrounding failure to appears, and I guess I don't really know the process. So how can we reduce the number of individuals that are coming before us with issues such as jaywalking, marijuana usage with less than an ounce, possibly urinating and or defecating in the park, and individuals who have a long history of documented mental illness? Is there some discretion in your office in terms of how we navigate those cases? And again, I'm referring to the dynamic of criminalizing poverty, but also to reduce some of the backlog in terms of what the court may be dealing with and using your discretion to make those decisions. We are clear that we don't want to burden the police department because they have a task and their job is to take individuals off the street who have committed crimes. But at the same time, how can we decide which cases are worth our time to prosecute so that we're using our limited resources appropriately?
Well, I'll answer that question by telling you part of what we already do. Well, we already work with the PAD program that deals with alternatives to arrest and I guess ultimately alternatives to prosecution. What I believe we need to do is to get some of our other organizations together. I'll give you a perfect example. When we had a public hearing with the Citywide Crime Commission, almost about 25 organizations showed up. And the one thing that I remembered as I sat there is that we need an umbrella to bring the organizations together. And it may actually have to be through the Crime Commission. Get these organizations together so that we can make the decisions in terms of where do these people need to be resourced in terms of mental health evaluations, in terms of homelessness issues, in terms of all of those things so that we don't use our criminal justice system as a warehouse for all type of societal ills. So we are involved, and in fact, I actually think I chair a subcommittee with the Crime Commission with the resource. We're involved with getting ready for our next Crime Commission meeting. I think it's just a matter of bringing organizations together. PAD is doing something, Fulton County in terms of mental health, they're doing something, but we need it all under one umbrella. And I think that if we're able to do that, then we can look at the very categories. Sometimes it's just substance abuse. There are other times when it's mental illness. There are other times when it's just abject poverty. And then some people are a combination of those things. They have all these problems going on. So we need to have an umbrella to bring these organizations together so that we can set up a protocol in terms of the city of Atlanta so we don't use our criminal justice system as an answer to a whole lot of things that we just are not equipped to address by just having the person sit there. Person sitting in jail, their issue is not being addressed. They got the punishment side of it, but then they go out and what's going to happen? They're back again. So that would be my suggestion, or more so my recommendation, that we actually use the Crime Commission as that umbrella organization. That would be my recommendation.
Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Solicitor. Is there any way we could circle back around with the district attorney's office? We were making great strides there. I know they're working on some complexes as it relates to guns and gangs, but can we bring that group back together, Ms. Smith, and just circle back around? Because many of our citizens don't know what strides we are making and they feel let down by us. So Councilmember Norwood and Mr. Lewis, if we could get back together with the district attorney for a brief meeting just to see what we can do to continue to let the citizens know that we are working on their behalf, because many of the owners live out of the city, Florida, California, and it's a heavy lift. But we cannot afford to continue, a city like Atlanta can't afford to allow these folks to profit off of the poor like they are doing right now. Thank you.
We'll set up the meeting. I do want you to know that they are still committed to working with us. I know they had their hands full with everything state, nationally, but they're still committed. And there's a deputy district attorney that Ms. Smith and I regularly work with. We will go ahead and set up the meeting. And I would hope that Chairman Hillis, that you might want to be a part of that group also. We'll go ahead and we'll set up a meeting. We'll set up a meeting.
Councilmember Lewis, you have another question? I will echo Councilmember Boone's request, and that we had that meeting with the District Attorney's Office to hopefully use that resource as well. But, I mean, even if they push back or they're busy, I mean, we have our own ordinances to enforce. I believe in, as the saying goes, talking softly and carrying a big stick or big gavel in this case. And I have authored and passed city ordinances to address street racing. My colleague, last term, Councilmember Faroki, passed the city's violent crime nuisance ordinance that I would like to see used more, regardless of whether we get across the street help or not. We and your office have the power to enforce that. And I keep up with my high crime properties. Have people in the red, I got people in the orange, and I got people in the yellow. And so I'd love to see more action on those. Again, what I would love to see is, them seeing us with this big gavel and your big stick, and us not having to take any action. But instead communicating with them and stating, well, this is why we're here. You've had 3 murders or 4 murders at this complex. You've had 10 aggravated assaults in the past year. You've had 10 robberies, and you need to do X, Y, and Z. And then hopefully they do X, Y, and Z, and we never see them again. But if not, then we put that big stick to work. So I would, again, echo her, Councilmember Boone's request to reconvene that meeting. If it doesn't contain someone from the DA's office, that's fine. It would be great if they would, because we would appreciate their partnership. First question, or second question is, what's your current staffing levels right now?
We're staffed at 84 individuals. We also have some extra help positions that are not permanent at this point, but these positions are tied to the case management system. And what we have done is we're working with the city's work source development to develop training and jobs for data entry. Once this case management system launches, we're going to be looking at staffing of about 94 people.
And that is, so another question, phrased another way, is how many funded and unfunded vacancies do you have right now?
There are 84 funded, and I believe, and this is off the top of my head, I believe there's about 13 unfunded, which includes the 10 data entry positions. But I can get that specifically to you and correct it if I'm off a number or two.
Get deeper into that during your budget hearings. And another thing I would appreciate, and I believe your answer to this may be, this will be easier to do when your case management system gets activated, but, so many times we, being responsive to our district's concerns, we turn in code enforcement issues, we turn in noise ordinance issues, business license issues, fire code violations. I'm just reading off the chart here. Are you able to provide it either now, would be great, but certainly once you get the case management, to tell me, or tell us rather, just how many of each of these cases that you, I guess one metric would be how many have you done so far this year?
Yes, we actually have that information in spreadsheets and manual charts. This case management system will really bring us together, but any information that you need now in terms of case categories, I can provide to you manually. But what I really like about this opportunity with the case management system, it will allow us to assess not only our efficiency, but also trends. Suppose, for example, the reckless driving cases, the success rate has gone down. Well, you need to know in real time why. What's going on? Is there a quirk in the law that needs to be changed? Are people not doing the job they're supposed to do? And so that's why I'm so anxious to get this. You all have been very patient. We actually started this project in 2021, and we didn't get anywhere until we got it in front of you and you put it in front of council. So I can't wait to give you some fact-specific numbers so that you can assess what we're doing, but also what we need to do, where we need to go to improve the system for everyone.
So, if you could, but you can go ahead and provide something like that now, just
I can do it per
putting
what's
up,
on that. Yes.
numbers, whether it's, I'd imagine it to be, for the year so far in 2023. We
Yes.
processed this many cases, X was found guilty, Y number was not guilty, and then we have X number pending.
Absolutely. We have that from January through March 31st, and we can also bring it up to date. I can get that to you now.
Greatly appreciate that. And my last question is if I could get tell me more about specific details and the timeline on the Donnelly Hollowell sweep, because it says in April you did 25 inspections and issued 4 citations. If I were a code enforcement officer, which I'm not, I could probably do that in one block.
Well, now I
Right,
can
Councilmember
call up
Ramos.
Deputy Smith to give you specifics because I told her we need to get moving on Donnelly Hollowell. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Erica D. Smith, Deputy Solicitor. We just started on Donald Hollowell. Every week, we are dedicated 3 days out of the week to go and do our details on our corridors. Please keep in mind that it's not just our office. We have to get together with the fire department, APD code enforcement, DPW, business license. We go as a group.
Yeah,
And
we
so
the whole brigade.
Yes, and we specifically take the fire department because pre-pandemic, we have not been enforcing our tire ordinance. So, and there's a lot of, the reasons why we go down these particular corridors is we know there's a lot of tire shops along MLK as well as Donald Hollowell. So we're trying to enforce our tire ordinance to make sure that they're storing the tires correctly and they have the amount of tires they're supposed to have. But to answer your question, we're moving along the corridor. As you know, there's a lot of businesses as well as industrial businesses along Donald Hollowell. And we also need, because you also have a very large gas station over there too that has a lot of stores within it. And so we also have to coordinate with APD, with the quality of life officers, because we do need some type of uniformed police officers when we go out there, because sometimes these business owners can get combative. But to your question, we're going out 3 days a week with everybody.
That's great to hear. Please keep me and Councilmember Amos updated on Donnelly Hollowell corridor.
I most certainly will.
Councilmember Amos.
Yeah, thank you. Please let us know, because we do something in the office very similar. You guys heard me talk about a Walk With Me Wednesday. So, and we're asking fire, police, and everyone to come out. So we're not adding extra stress on our different departments. If there's opportunities, I can jump out there with you, and or we can go out together. Just let me know. Clarification. I think the chair asked for your funded vacancies, and you said about 84 people. Is that
No,
correct?
those are funded positions, and then I said the unfunded positions, which are not necessarily vacancies, are between 10 and 13.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Member Lewis, did you have another question? Saw your face on the screen. All right. Any other questions from my colleagues? Well, thank you, Solicitor Carter.
Okay. Thank you, and look forward to us getting together. We'll go ahead and get with your staff and start scheduling these meetings. Thank you.
Deputy Solicitor Smith as well. Third on our list, we have APD's monthly update. Deputy Chief Span has joined us. I take you were our Deputy Chief Peak today, right?
Yes, I'll be for the moment. How are you all today? All right, greetings. Councilmember Lewis, Councilmember Waits, Councilmember Boone, Chair Hillis, Councilmember Amos, Councilmember Norwood, Councilmember Bond, and President Shipman. Thank you for having me today. So I cannot start off this slide without first speaking to the great works that the Atlanta Police Department did just last week with our active shooter This is our active shooter in Midtown, and here is a brief synopsis. We got the call at the medical office at 12:08 p.m. Of course, our shooter was identified. We recognized early on from some intel that we found through our surveillance cameras that the suspect fled towards a Shell gasoline station. He stole a vehicle and he fled to the Truist Park area. Of course, as you all saw in the news as it played out, the suspect was arrested. And I really want to take the time to highlight the EMS, fire, Grady, and E911. Of course, our E911 team fielded so many calls during that time. And it was important that we got those intricate details of everything that we needed to know while on the street. And our officers did a phenomenal job. We had great collaboration from several jurisdictions. They came out to support us. That ranged from MARTA, Fulton County Sheriffs, Fulton County Marshals, GSU, Georgia Tech, you name it, they were out there. And if they weren't out there, they called and asked us how they could assist. So that just speaks to the volumes of APD and the partnerships that we have with our partners. Of course, the training for the scenarios, we trained for this type of activity our whole careers, and I was very proud of our officers to go out and handle it like they did without anybody getting additionally hurt, but at the same time, knowing that we had a loose gunman and then trying to go into that building to locate who was hurt, who was injured, and trying to make sure that we got fire and EMS up to the 11th floor of that building to make sure that we didn't have any additional serious injuries or fatalities. Of course, we have debriefs scheduled internally and externally for later this week. And so we know that although we did a phenomenal job, we still have some minor work to do. And of course, we want to be experts in this field should it ever have to occur again. Oh, I did want to speak to the communications. I didn't point that out. The communication alerts, as you all know, everybody was informed that day, whether it was from the mayor's office, from the police department. Everybody made sure that they kept the citizens informed as to exactly what was going on, what was taking place. And we're thankful to our citizens who stayed in place and actually abided by what we were putting out. The next slide you'll see, this speaks to the Crime Week 17. When you look at it for the 28-day as well as our year-to-date, we know that we're 40% down in homicides and 23% down in aggravated assaults. Excuse me, as you can also see, we divide our crimes up into two different categories, which is crimes against persons and crimes against property. This is where we struggle the most, is against the auto thefts. Of course, you all know and are aware about the Kia and the Hyundai issues that we see not only in this city, but nationwide. Homicide motives for us continue to be due to escalating disputes. They are still leading us this year as far as different people knowing each other and not being able to really come to a resolution or having great conflict resolution skills. It's just not seemingly what we're able to utilize these days, and it's leading to an uptick in our homicides, as you can see, 17 year to date. This was a great arrest that we made last week. Our homicide, this is a homicide suspect. This actually is from a homicide that occurred in Zone 1, but just speaking volumes to the technology that we have and the platforms used. We got a call from 911 saying that someone had assaulted one of our homicide suspects at 548 Northside Drive. This particular individual was standing in front of that Circle K. Once he was in front of that Circle K, we had officers to utilize our camera systems, make proper identification of the suspects, where we were able to respond to that location. Of course, a short foot chase ensued, but we were able to apprehend the suspect. The suspect still had a firearm on him at the time of arrest, and the suspect
was involved in this particular homicide 2 days prior to this event. So it just speaks to the great work of our camera systems. As you can see here, the aggravated assaults or person shot incidents, we have 124 incidents year to date. We are down 23% the same time last year and down 29% this time in 2021. Just speaking to another great arrest where our police officers are definitely being proactive in the Zone 3 area and utilizing gang enforcement. This is where 2 gang members, they initiated a traffic stop. This vehicle fled from the officers. The officers later spotted the vehicle in a parking lot of 1634 Lakewood. This is the Quick Pick that's located there. Two known gang members were arrested. Both of them are convicted felons. One of them had a Glock handgun, which was recovered. It was actually stolen out of the city in Zone 5 in September of 2021 from 265 Peachtree Street, and that was another vehicle break-in at that time. At the same time this was going on, officers saw another vehicle. They ended up having K9 respond to the scene, and we ended up making a total of 3 cases in that same parking lot, same day, within the hour. So we have 4 vehicles impounded, 14 felony charges, and multiple narcotics, as you can see here in the picture. Recovered is, or what you see pictured here is MDMA, oxycodone, and cocaine. So speaking to traffic enforcement, we are 33% up for the year. This metric is one of the many factors to determine officer activity and to deter crime, and of course, in our hotspot criminal areas. Councilmember Norwood, to your point earlier, we had a traffic stop, and this was for an improper display of a license plate. And once we were able to stop the car, during the traffic stop, the officers recovered 2 pounds of marijuana, 1 AR-15 rifle, 4 handguns, one of which had a switch on it, high-capacity magazines, some of them are drums, as you see pictured, and $36,000 in U.S. currency. So for that type of traffic stop, just a minor improper plate, that led us to that arrest. So those type of simple minor traffic offenses can lead to significant arrest.
Can you tell us what kind of improper plate it was?
Yes, the person just merely decided that he wasn't gonna affix his plate correctly, like it was not on correctly.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and as you can see, still Kia Hyundais consistently plague the zones, but specifically zones 4, 6, and 3. We do have another shipment of the 2000 anti-device donated by Kia and Hyundai, and a distribution is being planned for later this week. But I would like to add that we know with these auto thefts, we know that we need stiffer penalties. As you all look past, I would say past the last 3 years between the auto thefts and the car break-ins, we know that those are the crimes that drive the city consistently. And so if you all could, I would ask that we just pay special attention as we ask for additional assistance with different, levying different criminal penalties. This is a slide of our repeat offender. To be on a repeat offender list, you've had to have at least 3 arrests. And so for these individuals, right now on this slide, we are referring to 10. One of them alone had 71 arrest cycles, and another one had 64. The ages of the arrests, the average is 42, number of arrests 32, and the number of felony convictions 7. So out of that total of those 10 arrests, the total arrests combined were 317. Just wanted to point out too, as well as our Cops Operations at 780 Morosco Way. This was an area where we had at least 3 calls of service for different fires that were at that location. This encampment was just embedded with lots of trash. Of course, there was an encampment there. Officers went out at least 3 months prior to going to that area to clean up, to offer resources. Yes, they partnered with Partners for Home. This location is adjacent to the post office and right behind the Home Depot. They did come in contact with several unsheltered individuals there. Some of them did not take services, some of them did, but as you know, it's completely voluntarily if they decide that they want to take the services. But as you can see, 14 DPW members came and offered services. This was a 5-hour operation, and 25.8 tons of material were removed from this location. A good police department wouldn't be a great one if we didn't have community involvement, of course. And we want to highlight some of our PAL events that we had recently. One, our youth and law enforcement spring break just took place. We offered services and had at least 25 kids to pre-register for the event, but 35 of them showed up. So we were really excited about that. We are currently into our 43rd class of our Citizens Police Academy. We have 22 individuals enrolled in that class. And the last picture that you see, the PAL giveaway, these were students who really participated a lot in some of our high flyers that partnered with Dick's Sporting Goods, where they can get items that were needed at that sporting goods location. And then last but certainly not least, as you all can see, the registered cameras, there are 16,109 currently registered and 15,328 that are currently integrated. And APS has now fully integrated into our system. It records the entrances and exits of the school, and now is capable of live monitoring on the camera as well. So we're happy to hear that. That's all I have for you. Any questions?
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Colleagues, if you have questions, please indicate with your speaker button. First, we'll go to Councilmember Lewis.
And my question is, first, around the, I want to say thank you for supporting us and for risking your lives in an active shooter moment. We know the gentleman was having a mental health issue out of this world. And I appreciate the folks from police, fire, and all our E911 workers for helping keep Atlantans safe and folks in the Atlanta area safe. I appreciate folks for being brave enough to rush into a situation. You know, typically when people are shooting the guns, people run away from it. We have people that actually rushed into that. So I want to say I appreciate you for that. My question surrounding around that is, crazy time to ask this kind of question, but when we talk about protecting Atlantans, we talk about protecting folks during the taxpayer dollar, on the taxpayer dollar throughout the taxpayer time period. How many police from the, I know we pulled from how many districts did we pull police from to help out during the active training, during the active shooter?
So honestly, when that call came up, how it typically comes up, it comes up as a help call for officers. And when those type of situations happen, if there's an officer that's close to the area, that officer will respond. But what I will say is that there was an incident commander there. And that incident commander, once we recognized and was able to stabilize that particular incident, those officers that were responsible for 911 calls were placed back in service. And we were able to designate responsibilities to the SWAT commander, to the tactical field officers, and to the other agencies that came there to support.
And I appreciate us for being able to be flexible and do that. I'm under the And the reason why I asked that question is because I want to know if we were able to pull from every zone. When you think about something that happened, if an active shooter is shooting in my district, I want police from all over the state to come help me. My issue and my hope is that we were able to pull folks from each zone.
That's typically how it happens. When that call comes up, everybody, the cavalry is coming.
The cavalry's coming, right?
Yes.
And so my issue is that people at the public safety training facility, those 40 police officers that were there, that should not have been there during their scheduled time, because I'm still upset because crime is going up in my district. It's a new trap house on my street in my district. I'm knocking on that door. That's on my street. I ain't talking about down the street. I know they selling drugs right there. It was 10 shots this weekend at that house. My neighborhood commander lives there. He sent me the meanest text messages he'll send me. And so we know what all call means. Cavalry come out. How many police were there any police officers from the public safety training facility even that could have been called for that? Or are there any that came, or are there any that could have been called for that action in particular?
So I would have to go back and honestly have to do research to say who left the public safety training center versus not. But I will say this. I think for you, in reference to your concern about your house, please make sure you let us know or let your major know so that we can get people on that particular location. You shouldn't have to do it by yourself. We're here to support. And then in addition to that, if there's any additional information you need, like say, you want to know specifically who came versus not, I think it's important that we recognize it's safety in numbers.
Yes.
Right? And so we want to make sure that those individuals do respond to the scene. Again, I can't say where they came from. They came to help. They came to make sure that our citizens were safe that day.
Yeah, and I think, and if anyone in the building can answer this question, I know we do have APF, we have ADPD, we got the mayor's office who it falls under, but I want to know I know we have let's say 40 police officers 40 to 50 police officers at the training facility. I want to know is if any of those 50 police officers could have left their site, because we got murders happening in my district, we got robberies, and I live next door to a trap house. I know for sure 10 shots fired out this weekend because I was gone, but the neighborhood president called me and said something got to happen, and he had a recording of the shootings. And it's in my personal phone, not even my city phone, because he's a personal friend. And so I know that if that happens, every single officer in Zone 3 would have come, could have come. I've been told that officers that were at the public safety training facility were not even eligible to come help. So if it was 20 people shooting downtown, the officers at that public safety training facility, which are our best and brightest from what I keep hearing, they asked for the best officers we got over there. And I was told that they did not come. So I would like to know if anybody can help me with that.
This is what I would do, Councilmember Lewis. I can speak with you after, but I think for operational purposes, we probably shouldn't get into who left versus not. There is still a safety concern at the Public Safety Training Center, so.
My only thing is that's property and people. There's a difference between property and different from people. We was nervous in City Hall last week. I was telling people I got my gun, we all right, right? I was telling police, I got you down here. When you're around me, you safe when you with me, right? And so I'm telling you that folks in City Hall was nervous. And so we talking about people. And that's property that's not in the city of Atlanta, not owned by the city of Atlanta, and we ain't building that. And so to me, people first. And I understand the safety precaution, but to me, if we got a man who's having a mental health issue, not like Texas where that man went crazy, that Trump supporter went crazy, but a man having a mental health issue downtown Atlanta, we need more help, more bodies on the ground. And I don't want to see any space be called off limits, particularly a place that's not in Atlanta with on-duty police officers there, right? They had people doing extra jobs. I tell you, they called me a sellout because I want to see police make money on extra jobs. I ain't tripping. But to me, during your time period of working in District 12, the other district, you do what you want to do. Zone 3, District 12, I need you, man. I'm in the barbershop on Cleveland Avenue, the one that everybody don't like, that most people don't feel safe in, and we calling the police at that barbershop. We ain't anti-police, we ain't abolished police at that barbershop. We had a barber who was literally murdered, burnt on fire. He was caught under a bridge and burnt on fire. This is last month. And people in that barbershop called the police. And so I'm asking for police officers who should be in my district at that time period to come back home, man. I need you. Crime just went up even more. I need you. And so to understand that we had people in fear of their life, city council people in fear of their life, and I hope that if we had the all cavalry calls citywide, if folks that should be working on their time period, extra job, we can't call you in for your extra job. Go make $1 million on your extra job. Call me a sellout again for that one. Make you $1 million on your extra job. But while you're working under our taxpayer dollars, we need you for that all cavalry call downtown Atlanta. We were afraid for our lives. And so I'm hopeful that somebody can tell me if it's an all call, because that's property unto my
We'll
people.
talk that. We can talk that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ramos.
Chief Span, how you doing?
I'm well, how are you?
Good. Still sticking with personnel and staffing, and you may not be able to answer this, but first of all, let me back up. Thank you for mentioning E911 and also fire, because they are often forgot about in the congratulations, especially our E911 responders, who are pretty much the first responders who take all of those calls. Talking about mental health, I know there has to be an impact when something like this, because I think all officers have to talk to someone, should hopefully have to talk to someone if they're involved. Is there impact to staffing in a mass situation like this, to where you have to pull officers from certain locations, or what is the protocol to make sure that our officers and our first responders are okay going back out serving the people of Atlanta?
Of course, thanks. I would say to that, we did have our employee assistance program to come out and talk to the officers, investigators, crime scene techs, just to make sure that they were okay. Now, it's totally up to them, and of course, a volunteer basis if they seek additional treatment. But our response is we want to make sure that we at least check on them to make sure that they don't need that time off or that time to decompress, or even if they need to see or have additional counseling sessions.
Member Vaughn.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. And again, I want to just add my voice to the accolades of the response that you all do every day, but in this particular case, this past week. And wanted to ask the question about two things. One is, where are we on the classes that we may have in process of our hiring? What is our current status of officers, and how many people do we have in the pipeline to be on board by the end of the next fiscal year?
So right now, we're about the same as we were last year. Of course, we're going to have to continue our hiring. And I think one of the main things that we need to focus on as well is the retaining of our officers, and make sure that we're competitive with the other agencies that are offering the take-home cars and the additional bonuses. But we are going to have to do additional hiring, Councilmember, and we're going to have to hire even more that we plan on hiring this year alone, and hire even more next year to make sure that we're maintaining that proper flow.
What is that level? How many people do we have?
I can get with you offline on that.
I mean, it's public record. It's been
Right, I can get with you. I can send it to you, or I can send it to all of the council members.
Yeah, send it to everyone. And how many classes do you have at the academy now?
We have 3 in the process right now.
And what's about the approximate size of each one?
Approximate size is about 25 is average.
Well, I guess part two of that is, as far as the pay and compensation, APD has gotten, as some employee activists would be very quick to tell us that they've gotten, I guess it's about a 40% increase over the last 5 years. And I know that there's been some discussion in the pension space about looking at reexamining the pension benefits that APD officers have. Have you been aware of any of those conversations?
I am aware of some, and I know that the union is going to be doing a presentation for you all shortly to speak in reference to that.
So, yeah, they're going to be asking to go back to the old pension.
Correct.
I think.
I think so.
Which, given your professional opinion, I mean, the type of benefits that we're offering today versus what our competitors are offering, are we behind what they're offering?
I can't speak to the other agencies' pensions, honestly. I think it's flashier for the other agencies right now to do the bonus offerings, and those are the $9,000, $10,000 bonuses that they are, but unfortunately, people are very attracted to. It's not so much about what I'm hearing about the pensions, I'm really hearing about the bonuses.
So we don't offer those type of bonuses
Correct.
right now. And we don't, and of course, the only incentive to stay is wanting a career at APD versus jumping over to another agency and maybe picking up $8,000 or $10,000.
Correct.
Wow, okay. Well, I just again want to thank you for the work that APD does. I do share the same concerns as, some of the same concerns as Councilmember Lewis about the deployment of officers at the site of the training center, and would hope that that would become more of an extra job situation than an active assignment for regular daily shifts, for APD. So I hope that that will come to fruition sooner than later. And I just also want to thank you all for making sure that the officers who are assigned to the parks, I guess they're loosely referred to as, what do they call them? Park rangers, even though they have not been identified as that, but I appreciate that. I've had several citizens call and say that they appreciate the presence out there because of minor incidences that have happened, and some of the major incidents that they feel very reassured by having the presence of APD there all the time. So just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right.
President Shipman.
Thank you, Chief Span. It's good to see you. I was struck by the incredible coordination last week in response across jurisdictions and across agencies, as you talked about. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. Are there efforts that have been undertaken in the last few years to increase that coordination? Are there specific training that occurs across agencies? Is there something that happens? Because it was so smooth and so extraordinary. I had several constituents comment to me on it. I'd just like to give you an opportunity to talk to that if you'd like.
Yeah, so there are times when our specialized units do take the time to coordinate with each other to train. But what I would say with the new Public Safety Training Center coming, it will be a great opportunity for us to be able to train with fire. And that's something that we've never had the opportunity to do before.
And is it correct that in this particular situation, the fire and rescue folks were actually running into the building to render care even when it was unclear exactly where the shooter was? So in essence, they were going into a potentially dangerous situation.
That is correct. So we escorted them up to the 11th floor, and yes, they were right there with us the entire time.
It's extraordinary. I wanted to just ask about one issue that's been brought up to me to get your thoughts on. There are a lot of festivals that have been happening lately across the city. Had some constituents complaining about the lack of enforcement during those festivals. We put up signs about no parking, we put up signs about no through traffic, but we're not as enforcement oriented, at least to what they think that we should be. Ticketing and/or towing of cars, et cetera, and some residents have been quite unhappy about it. I just wanted to put it on your radar, and two, do we have the ability to actually do some additional enforcement in those types of situations, especially for large festivals?
I know previously, when I could work the festivals, we partnered with ATL Plus at the time, who would take the time to tow the cars and actually issue the citations. And specifically around that Piedmont Park corridor where the signs are visible, where it had to be permit parking only. And I think as we utilize certain areas in the city, that is oftentimes a challenge, that those signs are not there. And of course, the residents no longer have a place to park, but the park permit only signs are not there. It's only designated in certain areas, as you know. And so I think, and I'm not sure where we are with the ATL Plus as far as what they can do or partner with some festivals versus not. But typically speaking, that has been an extra job function, so it doesn't remove officers from the street or take away from officers responding to public safety needs.
Got it. And then just one detailed question. I was looking over the citywide crime statistics for week 17, and Zone 4 has particularly higher property crime across a number of categories. Most of the city is in kind of the same spot where most property crimes are down, except maybe shoplifting here or there, and of course cars that we've talked about. But Zone 4 particularly has seen property crimes up over. I just wanted to highlight that and to see if there were any specific efforts that were going on to try to address that particular situation.
So I would say, and it'll probably be in next month's presentation, but Zone 4 has made the most significant turnaround for the 28-day. So you will be able to see that, moving forward. But they are doing some different things, asking for additional resources from specialized units to come and assist them with their crime-fighting efforts.
Good, that's good to hear. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions, colleagues? Thank you, Deputy Chief Spann, and just echo what all of my colleagues have said here today. Great coordination and effort last week with the unfortunate incident. It was great to see all those agencies working together. Yes. APD from the chief all the way down to our police officers and everyone in between, AFRD, and all the other police agencies, but also Grady. They said that Atlanta can't live without Grady, and that's where those trauma victims went to. So thank you again. And I like the new 150 badges, by the way. Very nice. All right, that completes our presentations for this week. So we will move on to our consent agenda. I will make a motion to accept all favorable claims. Those are items 1 through 14. Is there a second?
Second, Boone.
Second by, I'll go with Vice Chair Amos. You can have the next one, Councilmember Boone.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are favorable. Moving on to our unfavorable claims, I will make a motion to adverse all unfavorable claims, items 15 through 27. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Vaughn.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are adverse. We'll move on to our regular agenda, 23-0-1226.
An ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances so as to insert the words criminal history status in various code sections referencing non-discrimination and listing the basis upon which discrimination is prohibited and for other purposes.
To approve, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Boone. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. Oh, no. One moment, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes, the 23-0-1226, I believe is a dummy paper or would need a substitute before it could pass. And I've not received a substitute to this particular paper. I don't believe it actually has any operable function at this point. And so therefore, we would recommend that it actually be held, and my apologies.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to reconsider. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Bond. Please defer the vote on reconsideration.
Mr. Chair, the previous vote was not recorded by the system, so we will be taking the vote now.
But verbally, we voted, so I still need to make a motion to reconsider, correct, Mr. Parliamentarian? Okay.
Mr. Chair, please repeat the seconder.
The seconder was Councilmember Boone on the
Thank you.
original motion.
To reconsider.
To reconsider, it was Councilmember Bond.
Thank you. The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Motion to reconsider passes. I will now make a motion to hold. Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Yeas, 0 nays. Item is held in committee. 23-0-1228.
An ordinance by council members Antonio Lewis, Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, and Keisha Shun Waits to waive Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 1, Section 2-910 grant application to ratify the City of Atlanta's submission of an application for the United States Conference of Mayors Police Reform and Equitable Justice Grant Program in an amount of $175,000.00 to, if awarded, be utilized to support the Atlanta Police Department's implementation of the Police Athletic League and its programs in order to strengthen police community relations and build trust between the Atlanta Police Department and the community it serves and for the purposes.
Motion to approve. Second by Councilmember Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Yeas, 0 nays, and item is favorable. Item number 3, 23-0-1229.
There is a substitute, Mr. Chair, that changes the caption.
Make a motion to bring forth a substitute. Second by Councilmember Amos.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Substitute is before us.
An ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis as substituted by the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. An ordinance to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances at Chapter 110 Parks and Recreation, Article 3, Division 1, Sections 110-75 and 110-76 to repeal the prohibition against consumption of alcohol within a city park, to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances at Chapter 110, Division 1 to add Section 110-78, which shall be entitled Guidelines for Alcohol Consumption in City Parks, to amend the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances at Chapter 142, Article 4, Section 142-32, as shall be necessary as a result of the repeal of the prohibition against consumption of alcohol within a city park and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, the author asked to hold the paper.
Hold. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote to hold.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Ayes, 0 nays, that item will be held in committee. Item number 4, moving on to resolutions.
A resolution,
Well, there's actually, no, this is, we're not to settlements yet, sorry. 23R 3528.
a resolution by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into and execute a memorandum of understanding with the Fulton County Sheriff's Office for the purpose of establishing a mutual responsibility during a law enforcement emergency on behalf of the City of Atlanta Department of Corrections and for the purposes.
Approve, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Boone. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Ayes, 0 nays, that item is favorable. 23R 3536.
A resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone requiring all City of Atlanta interim review board hearings to be added to the Channel 26 live broadcast schedule. Regularly scheduled board hearings which are in conflict with any city committee meeting, public hearing, or any city mandated meeting shall be recorded by Channel 26 and added to the archives for viewing and for the purposes.
Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to say that this piece of legislation has come out of several community meetings and several citizens that have asked that these hearings be made public due to some of the recent actions in the city of Atlanta. We are going to ask that we hold this legislation until we meet with our MPU leaders and some of our other stakeholders, including the faith-based community who feels very strongly about this. So I would like to make a motion to hold this legislation.
Second. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, that item will be held in committee. 23R 3538.
A resolution by Councilmember Dustin Hillis correcting Resolution 22R4701 adopted by the City Council on December 5th, 2022, and approved pursuant to City Charter Section 2-403 on December 14th, 2022, authorizing the city to enter into an agreement, SP-S1230076, with Icon Holdco Incorporated for the Office of the City Solicitor's Case Management System by correcting the company name listed herein and for the purposes.
To approve, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, that item is favorable. Item number 7, 23R 3547.
A resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept a grant for the Governor's Office of Highway Safety in an amount not to exceed $89,426.56 to participate in a multi-jurisdictional DUI task force intended to reduce traffic fatalities in the metropolitan Atlanta area and for the purposes.
Make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, that item is favorable. Item number 8, 23R 3548.
A resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos authorizing the reemployment of the City of Atlanta Fire Rescue Department retiree James McLemore as First Deputy Chief for an annual salary not to exceed $166,781.00 pursuant to Section 3-505B of the Charter of the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, that item is favorable. Item number 9, 23R 3551.
Mr. Chair, there is a substitute which changes the caption.
Motion to bring that substitute forward. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
Ayes, 0 nays. Substitute is before us.
A resolution by council members Liliana Battiari, Jason Dozier, and Antonio Lewis, as substituted by the Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee. A resolution requesting the Atlanta Police Foundation to provide quarterly in-person reports in partnership with Atlanta Police Department and the administration to the Finance Executive Committee and for other purposes.
Make a motion to approve as substituted. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Norwood. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
60 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on substitute. Next items are all settlements. Please 10 through 14. If you can read those out of block, please.
23R3599, a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendant City of Atlanta in the case of Edward J. Hall versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number 22 EV004428, pending in the State Court of Fulton County, Georgia, in the amount of $10,500.00, authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for the purposes. 23R3600, a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against the defendants in the case of Linda Hendricks versus City of Atlanta, Georgia, civil action file number 119CV01773, United States District Court for the Northern District of Georgia, in the amount of $325,000.00, authorizing said amount to be paid from account numbers listed herein, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the total settlement amount and for the purposes. 23R3601, a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against the City of Atlanta by Green Energy and Development Incorporated in all matters related to FC-9231 ground lease agreement dated November 1st, 2018, in the amount of $15,000.00, authorizing said amount to be paid from the account listed, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the total settlement amount and for the purposes. 23R3602, a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendants in the case of Devontae Thomas and Riandra Jones versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number 21 EV007440, pending in the State Court of Fulton County of Georgia, in the amount of $62,500.00, authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for the purposes. 23R3603, a resolution by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee authorizing the settlement of all claims against defendant City of Atlanta in the case of Sabrina Watts versus City of Atlanta, civil action file number 2021 CV354804, pending in the Superior Court of Fulton County, Georgia, in the amount of $90,000.00, authorizing the settlement amount to be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed herein, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to distribute the settlement amount and for other purposes. That is the last settlement, Mr. Chair.
Make a motion to approve those items. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Amos. Please prepare the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
68 0 nays, those items are approved. I believe we have one item to remove from held. item number 26, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
R 3426.
A resolution by council members Liliana Battiari, Jason Dozier, Byron D. Amos, Antonio Lewis, Alex Wan, Matt Westmoreland, Andrea L. Boone, Michael Julian Bond, Amir Faroki, Howard Shook, Marcy Collier Overstreet, and Dustin Hillis, requesting the Municipal Court of Atlanta to explore the permissibility and subsequent development of processes that would facilitate online payment of fines imposed for low-level marijuana citations and for other purposes.
Ms. Robinson, whatever issues that causes us to hold this have been clarified and worked out, is that my understanding?
Yes, that's correct. The law department attended a meeting with the operational department as well as the Department of Finance last week, and the discussion was that there were no concerns with this legislation moving forward.
Make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Boone.
Second by Councilmember Boone. Please refer the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Ayes, 0 nays, the item is favorable. That completes our legislative agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Colleagues, any comments, questions, well wishes, goodbyes?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to invite everyone out to the midnight basketball, which will be held Mondays and Wednesdays at the C.T. Martin Recreation Center. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful initiative by Mayor Andre Dickens. We have free food. We have resources for the community. So please invite your constituents out to Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. It's something wonderful for the entire family. The Midnight Basketball League, C.T. Martin Natatorium and Recreation Center, 3201 M.L. King Jr. Drive. Thank you.
Councilmember Waits.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to echo the request from earlier in terms of revisiting the signature bond process to figure out how we can possibly clean that up to relieve some of the taxing on the court as well as the process. Thank you.
Member Waits. Any others with comments or questions? I'll get back to you on that. Well, without any further comments or questions, we will stand adjourned. I do have a birthday coming up. Thank you, Councilmember Bond. No, it is not today. We are adjourned by anonymous consent of members present.
When is it?